The Raptors lose a close one to the Washington Wizards, 112-109. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, and Jevohn Shepherd. Fellas, pretty entertaining game. How did this one slip out of their hands in that fourth quarter? Jevohn, I'll start with you.
The fourth quarter, I thought, there was a point where Kelly picked up, got himself into some foul trouble, and it was a short window, but Washington really capitalized there, and Raptors really didn't have much size on the floor, and Kyle Kuzma came alive, right? That second half, I believe he had 12 points, only had a slow first half. But for the Raptors, I think, when you have a team on the ropes and you have a lead, you have to capitalize because the margin for error is so slim with this group that you have to take advantage of that. And it just became one of those situations where a couple offensive rebounds led to opportunities for Washington, and then a couple missed shots. Gary Trent Jr., who had a tremendous game, missed that dunk, got hit under the rim there, which then, you went out and got a basket on the other end for Washington. So just a lot of little things. But at the end of the day, I think you're disappointed that this team lost to Washington, but you're not disappointed in the way that they played, because I thought they did do some really good stuff throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. Jonesy, was there a key stat that stuck out to you?
Well, I think the rebounding disparity was, it's something that you're always going to have to look at with the Raptors now without Pirtle. Kelly's the biggest guy they have, and oftentimes he's out on the floor facilitating or trying to stretch the floor to create driving lanes. So, that's something that I'm always kind of zeroed in on when I look at the rebounding disadvantage. And then, I thought for the most part, everything else was, they did a good job shooting the ball. Their defense was pretty good. Remember, it was the second night of a back-to-back, and I kept waiting for, it's not uncommon for the legs to die at some point. And I thought they showed zero signs of that all night.
Sure. What were some of the positive signs that you saw in the team's play just overall?
Well, I thought their compete level was very good. I thought they stayed in that fight. They made mistakes, but they didn't hang their heads. They continued to battle. I thought their effort on the defensive end was solid all night. And I like some performances that we saw. Gary Trent coming back from the back injury was able to show that he could get into some rhythm. Didn't make a lot of threes. Took him 26 shots, but I thought he played with energy. I thought he played with toughness, and I thought he played fearless in terms of that back injury. Brady Dick had another positive performance. Ochai Agbaji had some good moments in this game. There's a lot of positives in this group and how they competed and how they gave themselves a chance to win. But in a game like that, it comes down to execution, and they just unfortunately weren't able to execute at the level that was necessary to win the game.
Sherm, to your point as well, with Gary Trent Jr., he had a big scoring night. But I look at some of the little things. I don't want to get lost in just his numbers, but how he was using screens, right, and setting screens and the tight curls off of the ball as well. Didn't hit his first three until late, 7 minutes into the fourth quarter. It was a big three, but I was just really impressed with him actually using his size, limited dribbles, and again, those tight curls coming out of the corner, Kelly finding him. But I thought this form of Gary was a really good form of Gary, just for the fact that he did a lot off of the ball.
Jonesy, Ochai Agbaji clearly is an NBA caliber player. The guy can, do a lot of things on the basketball court. And speaking of form, his form is good, but it hasn't really, translated into consistent shot making, especially from three. Is there anything that you're seeing in the mechanics?
Nothing in the mechanics for me. I think it's reps. I think it's a comfort level and taking those shots, game ready shots, under duress, getting used to the pressure that comes with it, performing in maybe at a quicker pace. And I'm not talking about speeding up. I'm saying practice where you can work on your release and getting rid of it quicker, but with the same accuracy. He had a couple of good looks tonight that didn't go down. That might have been the legs. Those might have been the legs on the second night of a back-to-back. But I like what I'm seeing from him. There he was again tonight guarding Kyle Kuzma. He's been the guy in the last 4, 5, 6 games to take on the other team's best player, and he's getting that assignment consistently.
Sure. Brady Dick has, really settled into a nice rhythm here over the last little while. But what would you like to see next in his development?
A lot of the same. I think, when you see a kid start to get better and start to really gain his footing with confidence and he's having success, sometimes we tend to get lost in the fact that this has to be consistent. This has to be stuff that he can duplicate and replicate every single time he's on the floor. And then we want to pile so much more on him. But it's like, slow down, let him do what he's doing and let him get really good at what he's doing. And then you continue to build. And I think what he's doing right now is getting better every time we see him. And there were particularly a couple of possessions in this game where one time he was on the block and he picked up his dribble and he powered and he got his feet together and he powered through the defender and laid it in. Another time, a hard dribble to the middle, good footwork, turns around with a little fadeaway and is able to knock down the shot. These are quality plays, and these are plays that are a young player is developing confidence when he's making them. So I really like what I'm seeing from him, and he's just got to continue to do what he's doing. And, the summertime will be the time where he can start to really add different things to his game. But right now, continue on the trajectory that he's on right now. And I think it'll be a positive end to the season for him.
Javon Ramsey got the start, his first ever career start, which is, we're seeing a lot of that here down the stretch for the Raptors. What's your take on him?
I like, there's an energy that he plays with that is infectious. He's also, you look at his frame, you look at his body, he's made some athletic plays for this team every time he steps out there, and he's not afraid to play. Like, he's one of those guys, as soon as you tip that ball up, he just hoops. And even tonight, not a big night for him, but I like the way he started the game, just pressuring Jordan Poole, like getting him out at half and not letting him get comfortable into sets or setting up their offense. So I think there's something there to work with, only because you see that he's just a player. He's just a hooper. He's not a guy that you have to, tell to turn it on or get that switch flipped on for him. Maybe you want to tell him to scale back a bit, or maybe you want to tell him in certain positions, in certain situations, not as quick in reading the game. So I think there's a lot to work with. There's a lot to develop there. But in terms of his athleticism, in terms of his just ability, his feel to just play the game, there's something there.
Would you say he's got that dog in him, Javon?
He got a little dog. Okay. All right now. All right, Randy.
Sorry. That was a peace offering for sure, for showing him my dunk video yesterday.
Oh, boy.
Your dog's cute, but I don't know if it's enough for him. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Joji, let's talk about Mohamedou Gueye. His play in the Summer League last year was intriguing. It stood out to me. Are you intrigued by him?
I am. I just think it's a matter of him getting enough reps, getting enough time to have the game slow down for him. There's no doubting his athleticism. He's got really good skill. But things just at times move a little bit too fast for him. It would also help him to be on the floor with guys that aren't, just a little bit ahead of him in terms of the learning curve, right? If he could be on the floor with some vets, that would make it easier for him. But I like what I've seen from him. As you said, he's intriguing. I like his athleticism. I like his effort. And what I like is he does the things that he does well, he sticks to them. He hangs his hat on that. He's around the basket. He's challenging shots. He's finishing in the lane with dunks, and just kind of staying in his lane, so to speak. So I like what he's shown, and I like his potential moving forward just as he gets more experience.
Sherman, I want to ask you about Jordan Poole. I think we saw the good and the bad tonight of him in multiple different possessions. What would you do with Jordan Poole? Is he a guy that you think should come off the bench? Should he start? What's your take on him?
Jordan Poole is one of those guys to me that can win a game or lose a game for you just as easily. And that's my concern with him. So depending on the quality of players you have on your team, you might move him to the bench. Obviously, in a team like Golden State, he's not going to start over anybody there. But coming off the bench in a group of guys who are mature and guys who have won and understand how to corral him at times, he's a different player. But you can see in a system where I don't know how much discipline there is. I don't know in terms of how much accountability is being put on these guys in situations. When he's starting, he's just going to play and do what he wants to do. And sometimes that can be very disheartening for a coaching staff and for his teammates. But in a game like tonight, where he doesn't try to flamethrower a game, he tries to move the ball and he becomes a playmaker. He can be a very helpful teammate. And he made the biggest pass late in the game to Corey Kispert off that double team for a wide open three.
Pass, yeah.
So he can make plays and he knows how to play. It's just about getting that consistent, disciplined brand of basketball out of him. And I don't know if he's ever built to play that way, but the kid can play the game. It's the other stuff you got to worry about.
Yeah, he's pretty hilarious. At one point during a free throw from the Raptors, he was kind of just walking into the key, like as the free throw was happening. It's interesting. Javon, I really want to do an overtime question here because the Houston Rockets have won again. They scored 147 points against the Utah Jazz. They've won 8 straight. Do you see them catching and overtaking the Golden State Warriors?
No, I think Golden State is just too experienced, and at some point they'll put it together down the stretch here. And Houston is getting, as much as they're putting it together, they're also getting in fights every night. So you just don't know what you're going to get night to night with those guys. They've got to put the fist down and, get it together.
Jonesy, they're 1.5 back.
I know. And listen, in the grand scheme of things, you have to look at what Ime Udoka has done in his first year as the coach. They went out, they got a couple of vets, a couple of good team guys in Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks. And then all of those guys that made them look like an AAU team this year, Ime Udoka said, that's not going to fly. I'm going to coach you. And if we're going to get better, you're going to accept coaching. And I mean, last year, like I said, they looked like an AAU team at times. And that's with no disrespect to anybody. It's just that they were young. They didn't have a lot of leadership. There wasn't a constant rudder there. Steven, I talk about this all the time. Steven Silas went to Houston thinking he was getting Russell Westbrook and James Harden. And instead, he's got, a young Jalen Green. He's got Alfred Şengün. He's got all these young guys. He's got an AAU team that he's got to meld. And believe it or not, I think with some of the stuff they went through last year, it made it easier for Udoka to come in and change things this year. So I still think they're a year away. But when you look at the improvements that they've made and the steps that they've made, they're a team that's going to have to be reckoned with next year in the mix.
All right, guys, great stuff. Going to stop it there. Next game for the Raptors, Monday night at home against the Brooklyn Nets. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, come on by Real Sports. Try to be a part of the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.